I knew it was a trap the moment the calendar invite from Denise popped up. A critical touchpoint alignment review at 4:45 p.m. on a Friday. No agenda, no explanation, just a corporate ambush in passive-aggressive packaging. But I walked in anyway, armed with nothing but my battered black notebook, which held the secret she couldn't fake. A record of every detail she thought nobody noticed. She was there, scrolling on her phone, smirking as if my demise was a foregone conclusion. Sit, she barked, and I did, ready to listen for the next 45 minutes. It wasn't a meeting, it was a public spectacle. She projected a spreadsheet of my performance gaps on the wall, listing missed goals, late handoffs, and a laughable slide about team morale concerns, which was a joke coming from her. I stayed silent, taking notes and even nodding along when she looked me dead in the eye and said some people aren't cut out for this level of responsibility. The final blow was her grin. You'll be lucky to have a job next month, she purred, sliding a memo across the table with my name half erased from the org chart. I just smiled, packed my bag, and walked out. She had no idea that someone else had been watching the tables turn 3 days before her little show. I'd received a different calendar invite. It wasn't from Denise. It was for a mandatory executive strategy session with just my name on it and a floor number where people like me didn't belong. Monday morning, I walked onto the executive floor, clutching my busted laptop bag. The CEO, Mr. Harrington, a man whose handshake was rumored to end careers, was smiling. "Take a seat, son," he said, his voice a low rumble. He told me they'd been following my work, particularly my resilience under unusual leadership conditions. He knew about Denise. An executive then slid a file across the table Denise's, same fabricated performance issues. But this wasn't an accusation. It was a test. Harrington flipped the file shut. Turns out the only consistent performance issue was how many of her own tasks you completed without recognition. He then revealed that clients had specifically named me as the reason they stayed. Then came the final hammer blow. A woman with steel gray hair announced they were restructuring and they wanted me to head a new cross-functional operations team. I was stunned before I could even answer. Harrington added, "Oh, and Denise won't be joining. She has prior commitments, effective immediately." Just then, Denise burst into the room, out of breath and holding a Starbucks cup like a broken peace offering. She froze when she saw me at the table, surrounded by the people she'd spent years trying to impress. Her hand trembled, spilling her drink. Harrington didn't even look at her. He simply said, "This meeting is closed," and a security guard appeared, holding the door open. She left without a word, and the door clicked shut behind her like a gunshot. The reckoning begins. Harrington laid out the new terms. Operations lead, full autonomy, direct reporting to the VP, and a significant salary increase. Then he said the words that truly cemented my new power. "We need someone to rebuild the department she broke ... clean house if necessary." I didn't have to call security. Bryce, one of Denise's cronies, showed up uninvited, holding a manila folder with a list of his own mistakes. He tried to claim he was just following orders. I looked at him calmly and said, "Funny ... The CEO didn't mention a pardon policy I then opened the folder, revealing his list of failures and betrayals, and told him he had 30 minutes to clear his desk. Security was already waiting. One down. For the next 3 days, I launched a blitz. I demanded full weekly reports from everyone. Chaos ensued. I discovered projects that were abandoned and client relationships that were bleeding out. I documented everything. By Thursday, whispers had turned to palpable fear. They knew a reckoning was coming. The throne is mine Friday morning arrived like a war drum at 9:15. A one-word text from Harrington. Ready? 10 minutes later, the summons went out. All department staff, conference room B, immediate attendance required. Harrington and a woman named Kay Douglas stood at the front. No small talk, no pleasantries. Harrington announced that the department had been operating under flawed leadership and that major structural changes were coming. Then he motioned to me. Mr. Scott will be overseeing the transition, full authority, effective today. For the first time, my coworkers truly looked at me, not the guy who ate alone, but the guy with their futures in his hands. I opened my notebook and, without gloating, began reading names. Names of people staying, names for review, and names of those who were done. Bryce's name was second on the list, and I made sure to detail his failures for everyone to hear as people shuffled out. A third of the room white-knuckling their chairs. I saw her. Denise. She stood across the hall like a ghost, her hair flat, her makeup smudged, clutching a manila folder, her eyes locked on mine, a silent plea for mercy. I didn't move, didn't blink. Then I simply turned and walked away. She wasn't my problem anymore. The boardroom was the final stage. Harrington and Douglas handed me a bound report of full assessment of all the rot Denise had created. Now signed off for an immediate purge. My job was to present it to the board. I did so with no notes, no stutters, just brutal facts and a final slide showing a 37% projected revenue increase. The chairman leaned back and simply said, "Impressive. We made the right decision." The best revenge wasn't getting even. It was getting everything they said you couldn't have. And I didn't even bother to send a thank you note. The new kingdom. Monday morning, I posted the new org chart on the glass wall. Only the names of the survivors were on it, the ones who could work without a puppet master, the ones Denise had tried to bury. I promoted them. The office felt different, sharper, cleaner. A panicked message from Erica, one of Denise's quiet followers, popped up. "Just want to align on my role moving forward." I didn't answer. Her loyalty to Denise had an expiration date, and it was long overdue. Instead, I called a meeting with the new leadership team. I stood before them, a team of survivors, and laid out the new vision. A department built on transparency, merit-based promotions, and real work, not office politics. From now on, we build it for real, I said, brick by brick. No shortcuts, no parasites. Just as I finished, Marcus, a senior analyst, asked, "What do you need from us to make it happen?" I smiled, a real smile this time, because when you clear out the rut, the ones who stay want to build. A final email arrived from an anonymous sender. "You think you've won? This isn't over." I knew who it was. Denise was desperate. clawing at the walls of a kingdom that no longer existed. I didn't reply. Ghosts don't get meetings. They get silence. I signed off on the promotions for my new team. As the sun set, I leaned back in my chair, my office, and realized I'd survived everything they threw at me and built something better from the wreckage. Denise's kingdom was gone, and I had her old kingdom in one hand and the torch that burned it down in the other.